This is one of the sole swap hybrids that I have been the most excited for. I'm starting off with these Saucony Spot Builds, which are actually a collaboration with Trinidad James, and I'm gonna be using this golf cleat sole to make a pair of Trinidad James golf cleats. In order to start that off, I have to rip these soles off. For the Jordan new golf cleats, I started off by pulling the threads away from the toe cap using a pick tool. Then I pulled out a bone folder to help to pry the soles away from the uppers, which was actually a lot easier than I anticipated it being. Once I had gotten a fair amount of the way through, I pulled out my steam gun to help to further separate the soles from the uppers. For the Trinidad Sauconys, it was a pretty similar sole removal process. I started by pulling out the insoles and the laces before using a weeding tool to help to pull the threads that held the uppers to the soles. Then I pulled out a heat gun to help to break down the bond of the factory glue before using my weeding tool to pull the uppers away from the soles and using a bone folder to help to further pry the soles from the uppers. I continued this process throughout the entirety of the shoe to the best of my ability to make sure that I could remove the uppers from the soles with minimal damage. When it was time, I pulled out my steam gun to help to further separate the uppers from the soles without damaging any of the components along the way. I've officially removed the upper from the Trinidad James Sauconys and the sole from the Jordan new golf cleats. Now, what we gotta do is clean off these soles and clean off these uppers so we can get them ready to be bonded together. I started off prepping the soles using some Sneaker Dock paint and glue remover. After applying a thin layer of this and letting it sit, I pulled out a razor blade, which I was then able to scrape away as much of the factory glue and debris as I possibly could. Then I resorted to a little bit of acetone and cotton balls, and switching between the two methods, I was able to remove all the factory glue. With the soles prepped, I aligned them to the uppers using a heat erasable pen. This ensured that everything lined up appropriately and that I was able to get a nice clean bond between the two surfaces. Once I had everything lined up, I pulled out a sanding drum on my Dremel to ensure that I had all the raw leather exposed on the uppers and I had removed as much glue and factory debris as I possibly could. After dremeling, I pulled out some acetone and cotton balls and gave a light swab to the uppers to ensure that I had removed all of the debris and factory glue. Now that these Jordan new soles have been totally prepped and these homework Saucony uppers have been totally prepped, it's time to get some glue applied. I started my gluing by applying 2 layers of barge super stick cement about 15 minutes apart from one another to the uppers to ensure that I had nice even coverage. Once I had even coverage through the uppers, I provided some relief cuts to the lasting board to ensure that I could stretch the uppers to fit the soles. Once I had all of my glue applied to the uppers, I followed the same exact process with the soles, applying 2 layers of barge super stick cement about 15 minutes apart from one another. Then I let all of the glue cure for about 5 to 6 hours. My glue is fully applied and has been curing for a few hours, so now it's time to get these components bonded together. With my glue cured, it was time to begin the bonding process. I started by aligning the heels and then applying some heat to reactivate the super stick. Once I was sure that the heels were properly aligned and bonded together, I moved on to the toes where I followed the same exact process. After aligning everything together at the heel and the toe, it ensured that the medial and the lateral side fell exactly into place, and then I followed my same process of heating to reactivate the super stick and then bonding using pressure from my hands. Once everything was nicely bonded together, I was able to hand stitch the toe cap into place and make sure that everything was nicely secured. With everything secured in place, it was time to reinsert the insoles and get these kicks all laced up and call it a day, because this project was finally complete. Now that I've finished this Saucony Jordan golf cleat hybrid, let's take a closer look. Overall, I'm really excited with the way that these things came out. Other than a couple of small issues with the glue lines, these things look absolutely amazing. The match between the sole and the upper was pretty much spot on, and I only had to alter the uppers minimally to make everything fit. These things are an amazing pair of golf shoes, and I cannot wait to take them out onto the course this upcoming season. I'm really excited that I got the opportunity to turn these Trinidad James homework Sauconys into a pair of golf cleats. I think they came out pretty dope, but I'm curious to hear what you guys think. So let me know in the comments below. Hopefully I'll be able to come up with some more crazy collaboration work in the future. And who knows, maybe I'll even get to make a pair for the man Trinidad himself. Stay tuned to find out. As per usual, thank you to everybody that stuck around until the cold, bitter end of this video. You guys already know, I'm Sailboat and I'm out of here.